Good day, everyone. Welcome to the webinar on Project Code Resource Analysis. My name is Jay Gishan. I'm a senior technical consultant here at the RIB Gulf office in Dubai, UAE. It's my pleasure to present this webinar to you. Today, I will be demonstrating to you how to maximize resource efficiency in construction with Candy's W project coding. Today's presentation is recorded and you will receive a link to download it. There are regular webinars on various Candy topics. Should you not be able to attend a webinar at a given time frame, then please still register for the webinar, as this will entitle you to receive a link to a recorded copy of the webinar. As this webinar is pre-recorded, we will not be able to answer any questions during the webinar. Please email any questions that you might have to a local RIB office. We will collect these questions and send the answers to everyone that registered for this webinar via email. Let's get started. So going to the agenda, today we look at the introduction of the project codes in Candy, the definition and application of project codes, exploring resources in Candy. We look at the project code resource analysis, defining and allocating the project codes in Candy, project code resource analysis in bill and resource documents, project code resource analysis in reports, project code resource analysis at the post-contract stage, and integration with ERP tools such as RIB BuildSmart and others, and finally, how to use project codes for cost control function. So let's go to the first topic. Candy could accommodate multiple codes based on unique functions. Today, we are especially going to investigate some of them which can be grouped as the project codes. The project codes in Candy are bill code that define where the activity is done, task code which define what activity is done, and cost code which define which resource is used. We can also have a further breakdown of task code by using work codes. So in this webinar, we are going to see these W codes in more detail and see how to maximize resource efficiency in construction with these project coding. Let's first understand what are project codes and its application. So let's take an example of this bill item, clearance strip site of 5,400 square meters. When we are pricing in Candy, first we allocate the trade code, then create a price code either manually or as a system generated code. The trade code is used for summarizing the bill items and the price code is used for the worksheet or the rate analysis. Now let's look at adding the first additional code in relation to the project code, which is the bill code. So bill code is for location-based aspect that define where the activity is done, and the bill code is allocated to the bill items. Now, the next one is the task code that defines what activity is being done. Task codes are allocated to the price code and can be considered a further grouping of price code or bill items into categories of function based on productivity. In Candy, task codes are used to do budgeting and cost control function, and it groups the bill items based on function. One thing to be kept in mind here is that if the same item is repeated in the bill with same price code, then It can have a different bill code, but the task code will be the same since the price code is the same. For example, as you can see here, the clearance side bill item is appearing twice in the bill at different sections of the bill. The price code is same for the both items, so the task code is also the same, but the bill codes are different since one item is for ventilation shaft and the next item is for substation. The build code can be used for many scenarios like multiple buildings in the same project or multiple floors of the same building, etc. But the BOQ have to be split up accordingly. Another option that we have to further break down the task code is work code, which also determines what specific activity is being done. Like in this example, the task code identifies the activity as earthworks. But if you want to further break down earthworks to clear site, excavation, etc., for further analysis, we can use the work code. Same as the task code, work code is a property of the price code. So same price code will have same task code and same work code. Now, having seen the bill code, task code, and work code, let's look at the factor which determines how the activity is executed. That is, which resources are used. As we know, we use resources for pricing in worksheet. These resources are getting linked to the bill items through the price code, and subsequently, all other codes that we discussed will go linked to the same bill items through the price code, such as the task code and the bill codes. In terms of grouping, the resources are grouped first to resource type, the 9 classification such as labor, plan, material, etc. And then it can also be grouped into the cost code. So we link the simple resources to cost code. Cost code are also known as accounting ledger code and are used to summarize resources based on the accounting codes that are used to book the actual cost by the project accountants. So cost codes are used to compare allowable or budget against the real cost for cost control. The cost codes and the resource codes gets linked to the other project codes such as the bill and task codes through the bill items price code. Now let's also look into resources in Candy. In Candy, the resources can be simple or complex resources. Simple resources are the resources that we procure, and the complexes are a combination of resources. Simple resources are categorized by the resource type, whereas the complex are not categorized by the resource type, but the complexes are identified by the hierarchy level. Level 9 being the most basic, and level 1 the most complex. The simple resources are linked to the course code, but the complexes are not. I would also like to mention that ideally, the simple resources should be created in procured units, which makes the budgeting and procurement process easier. For example, sheets of plywood instead of square meters of plywood. Because obviously, the plywood would be procured in sheets and not as square meters. Now, having seen the simple and complex resources, let's also quickly look into root complex option in Candy. Root complex is an attribute that can be assigned to complex resources to control the level of breakdown while analyzing the complex resources. The root complex attribute can be assigned to a complex in any resource documents by selecting and right-clicking on the row selector. So it's an attribute that we assign to the complexes. The root complex level of analysis can be used in resource related documents and reports by right clicking on the resource description column in documents or by customizing the resource related reports and choosing the complex analyze to root complex option. Now let's see the project code resource analysis in Candy. So when we price the bill, we will know the total amount either in the bill heading summary or in the trade total display. As you can see, the total net amount for this job is 10.3 million. The same 10.3 million can be seen in the trade total that summarize the bill items by the trades and the resource type. Again, the same 10.3 million can also be seen as a total of the resource utilization in the resource documents. Now let's drill down further and look at the example of one specific resource. Let's say diesel with resource code of 4514, which is a material. So in this example, the total requirement of diesel is 46,436.788 liters of diesel, and the total amount is 132,000. Now the question that you will have is where and for what activity is this 46,437 liters of diesel used? And the answer for this question is what we are looking for this in this webinar. Yes, this can be achieved by using project code resource analysis. So using the project code resource analysis, we can see that resource diesel usage broken down into build code, task code, and the cost code level, all for the same resource code of 4514. So for this example, 7,061.17 liters of diesel is required for the preliminaries build code and for the preliminaries activity. 27,994 liters is used in the vent shaft build code for earthworks activity. 11,231 liters is used in the substation build code for earthworks activity. And again, in the same substation, we have got plumbing and drainage activity, which uses 150.21 liters of diesel. So that's the breakup of 46,436 liters of diesel. It is amounting to 132,000 in this project. And that's exactly the purpose of project code resource analysis. And we are going to see how this can be done in Candy. So to summarize this concept, the resources and the course codes gets linked to the other project codes such as bill and task codes through the bill items price code. The price code worksheets will have multiple resources, each assigned to one or the other course codes. Now, let's explore how this can be achieved in Candy. So, having learned this concept, let's see how we can define and allocate these project codes in Candy. So let me switch to the Candy application. So I have got a fully priced estimate file, which we'll be using for this webinar. So let's go into this job. And the definitions in Candy are done in the definition settings. The two essential definitions of trade and the resource trade type is mandatory for pricing the job. In terms of project codes, let's first look at the build code. So the build code or zone codes are defined under the section 3.1 under BOQ related definitions. The codes can be directly typed in this section, or it can also be imported from an Excel file or can be copied from master. The copying or importing functions are available under the tools menu for almost all of the definitions in Candy. So as you can see, in this example, we have used three build codes: windlass shaft, substation, and also the preliminaries, since the preliminaries are separated as another section in this BOQ. So the build codes will be able to segregate the resources for each of these zones or locations. As I mentioned, you can define the build codes in any manner depending on the project, like multiple buildings or multiple floors of the same building or multiple zones within a project. So build codes define the aspect of where. Now let's come to the next W component, that is what, which is identified by the task code or the activity code. So task codes are defined under the price code related definition section number 2 and in 2.1. Task code can also be typed in directly in this section or can be imported from an Excel file or copied from master. The task code definitions can also include some headings which can be seen in the job analysis documents to summarize the task codes, but the headings are not used for project code resource analysis. The work code can also be defined under the section 2.2 and it can be considered as a further breakdown of the task code. In order to minimize having to manage multiple codes, we can also use the task codes to include the location component. That is, by creating unique task code for each location, which will incorporate the build code component also within the task code element. For example, some ERPs like BuildSmart, build codes are not used, but the task code is expanded further to incorporate the where component. All right, having seen the where and what components of project coding, let's now look at the third component, what, handled by the cost code or the accounting ledger code in Candy. The cost codes are defined under the section 4, which are resource related definitions, and the cost code is section number 4.1, the cost code or the accounting ledger code. As always, the codes can also be typed in directly, or you can also import from an Excel file or copy it from master. So cost code is not something that you create in Candy, but we get the list of accounting ledger codes from the finance or the project accounting team, and then we import them as the cost codes in Candy. The cost code can also have some grouping, which can be used to align with the cost grouping of accounts for the cost reporting purpose. Now, having seen the definitions of these project codes, let's see how these are allocated. So we first look at the allocation of these codes and then we'll do the analysis. Coming back to Candy. So the cost codes or the project codes can be defined in the definitions and then allocated from the documents within the Candy. So let's look at the ask code and the work codes. the bill code, task code, and the work code first. So we can go to the bill related document, the document number 1.8 in the estimating BOQ section, which is the bill with codes and factors can be used for this allocation. Opening up the document. So for allocating these codes, we can go to the particular bill item and then select the particular code, double click on that specific column, and you can pick the respective codes from the defined codes within this job. You can also do it by right clicking and then choose the allocate bill codes option. Or we also have the option to allocate the codes or copy the allocations from master. That works if the master is the same job or a copy of the same job. Now the code allocation can also be done by selecting the entire row, right clicking, and then you can choose the code that you want to allocate, the bill code or the task code or the work codes. Do note that the bill code will be based on the page and item numbers, and the task codes will be taken based on the price code of the bill item. Like the bill code, the task code can also be selected by double clicking, or you can also type in the codes directly, or you have the option to copy from master. Again, based on the price code assigned in the master, those will be copied. Now let's see how the course codes are allocated. So the course codes are allocated from the resource related documents. So if you go to the resources tab in the document manager, we have got document number 1.7, which is resource group and cost code allocation. And when you open the document, first we can just filter out to show only the simple resources to make it easier. So going to tools, filter, see resources that are symbols, and then against each of the symbol resources, we can allocate the course code by just double clicking on the course code column and picking up the defined course codes. For those who want to learn more about these codes, please visit Candy Help Center, where you can see lots of material either as a tech note or previous webinar recordings, etc., and is available free. You can also see that Help Center tabs now are available in the Candy directly, and it will be highly recommended for everyone to explore this free option available for all the users. Now, having seen the definitions and the allocation part of these codes, let's see how we can do the analysis of the resources based on the project codes. First, we look at the documents and then we'll go to the reports. One of the best documents to see all of these codes, the bill items and the resource in one document is document number 3.1, which is available under the estimating BOQ section. I've customized the same document and have added the project code related columns such as the bill code, which is the column number 18.15, which you can take from the codes and factors section. Then I've added the task code, which is 18.10. And against the resource code, I've also added the course code column, which is the section 25.1. Have you customized this document? Let me open up the document. So this document will show against each bill item the bill code that is allocated, the task code, and against each price code, it will also show the resources which are used. By default, the resources are shown on a complex level, but it can be broken down to the simple resource or the root complex level as required. And this can be done by right clicking on the resource related columns and then go into column options, and you can choose which option do you want to take for the level of analysis. Here, you can either choose to break it to the simplest resource, or you can choose the root complex analyzed to root complex. Once you set the attribute of root complex to the complexes. And in the latest version, we have also added an option called expand complex that becomes active when the only when the no complex breakdown is selected. And then if I go again here, when you see the no complex breakdown selected, you will also see the option of expand complex. So what that will do is it will break down the complexes to simple resources, but at the same time, it will also display the complexes in the document. So you can see the complex P3171 for the 6M cube tipper with fuel and operator. And then you can see the same resource, simple resource of driver L2231 is used in the complex P3171, and it is also used for the JD Fortin digger loader with the complex P32511. And as we scroll towards the right hand side, you will see that you don't see any usages for the complexes, but the usages are showing up against the simple resources. Now, I've seen many users getting stuck here. When you do the expand complex, it might ask you to go and recalculate a document of 1.5 resources per complex. So you don't have to worry. Once you get this message, you can go to the document manager, go to the resources tab, open up this document 1.5 resources per complex, and then just calculate on this document. Click on calculate. So this document will display against each of the complex resources what are the simple resources used. Once this document is calculated, you can come back to the same resource per bill item document, choose the expand complex option, right click, column option, choose the expand complex, and then you will be able to see the simple resources against each of the complex. Now, the advantage here is that we can identify what is the usage of driver, the simple resource for the tipper complex, and also for the digger loader complex. As you can see, the driver, the allowance is 2.32 days of the driver for this tipper complex, and for the digger loader, the driver requirement is 1.16 days for all for the same bill item of this clearance strip site. So that's a good feature which you can explore further. That's a good option, right? So in this document, we can see all the project codes in a single view. And we can do further breakdown based on the resource code, course codes, or bill code, or even task codes. For example, let's look at the case of diesel, the resource code of 4514. I can filter out the bill items where diesel is used. So if I select this particular code, when I right click, I'll have an option called filter on fragment. And there I can use reduce by keeping or reduce by excluding. So if I say filter based on this code, it will only show the particular bill items where this resource is used. And I can, in the filter toolbar, I can click on hide rejects so that only those items are shown. Now, what I can also do is I can do a further filter based on any of the other codes. So let's see that. Let's first do a filter based on the task codes. I can see all the task codes are shown. So if I keep my cursor on the task code column and in the filter toolbar, if I click on this plus sign, I can do a filter for the task code column where I've kept my cursor. So if I say, okay, I only want to see for, let's say 02, which is earthworks, the task code of earthworks. When I apply the green tick, it only displays the activities of earthworks, which is the 02, and so on. And I can further filter down to a particular bill code and so on. If I just remove this filters, let me just demonstrate the same with the simple resources option. Now I can see all of the simple resources here. Let me just go to the top of this bill. So I can see all just the simple resource in this document. And then let's again apply the filter for this. Let's say now let's look at the fuel cost code 514150. I select the code, right click, filter on fragment, and then it will display the items where this fuel cost code is used. And then I've already hidden the rejects. So I keep my cursor on the task code and let my apply a filter based on the task code of uh, let's say 04 for earthworks, and then it shows the just the task code of 04. And I want further breakdown this by applying a filter on the build code. So I keep my cursor on the build code column and go here on the plus sign, apply filter on the current column, which is build code. And let me put the build code for substation, which is 3000, sorry. And if I apply the green tick, it only shows me the bill code or the bill items falling under the bill code of 3000, which is substation, and the task code of 04, and then the resources where fuel cost code is used. So that's how you can analyze once you have got the coding defined and allocated in Candy. Yeah. All right. Well, having seen the documents, let's look at some reports now for the analysis of project codes. Coming back to Candy. So for the reports, we can go to the report manager. I've already customized some reports for this webinar. Now let's first look at a resource analysis by project code. So this report is the resource related report, section number 5, resource list. And then I've taken the report number 5.5, which is resource analysis by project codes. And we can customize this report and choose based on which project code you want to see them. Let's first preview them. I've used a PDF printer, that's why it is asking me to save the report. And once you generate it, you can see the report is segregated based on the build codes and then the activity, then the course code, and then you see the resources, simple resources broken down here. And how do you customize this report? You can go back, go to the Customize Report tab after selecting the report. From the options, you can choose which project code you want to use for this analysis. And you can also segregate or decide the order of this project code, like you want to see bill, cost task, or cost task, bill code, etc. You can choose the order of analysis, and you can see the resource with summary, or only the resources, or only the summary. And you can choose the level of analysis either as a root complex or complex analyzed to simple resources. So, and you can also do a filter based on any of these filters like the resource type, the course code, the group code, or even some attributes, which you'll see soon. So I've also customized the report just to print the summary. So let's preview this summary report. Let me just save it here. So in this report, I've already customized and removed the other columns and just kept the description and the amount column because it's a summary that we are looking at. So you can see that the total 10.3 million of the project is broken down to preliminaries, which is the bill code 1.74 million. And within the preliminaries, we only have one activity, which is the preliminaries and general with the total amount. And then you will see the cost code wise summary. So if you look at the vent shaft bill code, we have got earthworks activity 679,000, concrete activity 1.7 million, and our total for the vent shaft is 4.3 million. Likewise, you can see the substation is 4.3 million, and then earthworks component within the substation is 308,000. And if you look at the labor, the skilled labor component within earthworks in vent shaft bill code is 99,000. And for the general labor or the helper, the total amount for Finless shop bill code, earthworks activity is 128,000. So that's a level that you can see the analysis using the project codes. And you can also generate this report for a particular group code. For example, I've customized this report and I've filtered it for a particular group code of RMC. And I've also filtered it for a resource type of M for material. So just apply the filter, click OK, and just preview the report to only generate for the ready mix concrete. So it generates the ready mix concrete or the the group code of RMC, and all the resource that we have allocated to that particular group code will be generated, broken down into the bill code, task code, and the cost code level. Yeah. We can also further break down to the same to a filtering based on the cost code. So I've filtered based on the cost code for fuel, like we saw in the documents. So I just customize the report, go to the filter and apply the filter based on the cost code, whatever cost code you want to see. And then just review the report. That's a fuel. And then you will see the same report here. You're only seeing the cost code for fuel. So we have got two simple resources which are allocated that cost code of 4150 fuel, which is the diesel and the special 97 octane. And you will see the breakdown of these resources broken down. So that's the 7061.17 liters of diesel that we saw earlier that we need for the preliminaries activity in the preliminaries bill code that we have allocated. Now I can also drill down one level further and see and generate this report for a specific resource. So what I've done here is I've customized the same report and I've done a filter based on the course code. And I've also added a filter based on the attribute. So I've assigned a key resource attribute to a particular resource that we need, in this case diesel, and I'm filtering the report based on that attribute of key resources. And let me first show you how I can assign the attribute. So you go to the resource list, and if you go to the diesel resource here, I can select that particular resource by the row, right click, and then I can go to attributes and set it as a key resource. The same manner that we set a root complex, I can also assign a key resource as, and then I can set it as a resource as a key resource, and then I can do a filter in the reports as well. So coming back to the report, take the report. I've already customized it to filter to based on this attribute of K, which is the key resource. And then if I just preview the same report, I can see a further breakdown of only the diesel resource for this report. So that's the same breakdown that I showed at initially when I was explaining the concept, the usage of diesel split across the bill code and the activities within that each of the bill code. So preliminaries, diesel 7,061 liters. And if you go to vent shaft bill code for the earthworks activity, we need 27,994 liters. And for the substation yard, we need 11,231 liters of diesel for the earthworks activity. And then if you go down, I can see 150.2 liters is required for the plumbing and drainage activity within the substation and yard bill code. So that's what we have seen already. Now we can also generate it for a labor, a particular type of labor. So with the same option, customize the report, go to the filter, apply based on the resource type, and then I can just preview that report, which will generate based on the labor. So you see all the labor resources which are categorized as the labor resource type can be generated. And if you can see the unskilled labor, the resource code of L2211. For the ventilation shaft bill code earthworks activity, we need 861.52 days of the unskilled labor. And if we go down further, I can see it for the concreting how much I need for the concreting activity within the same wind shaft. I need 2,153 days of unskilled labor. And if I go to the next page, I can see the substation yard. And for the earthworks activity within the substation yard bill code, I need 468.18 days of unskilled labor. And for the concreting activity within the substation bill code, I need 246.5 days of unskilled labor. So that's how it is broken down into the bill code, then the activity code, and the course code, and then reaching the simple resource. We also have another report, which is an older format, which is under the project code reports. And then we have got the 12.2 or the project code source analysis number 27, which I can also generate a similar report, but in a different format. So if I just preview this report, it also gives me the same details, but in a slightly different format. So I see the bill codes, then the activities within the bill code, and the simple resource which I used. You can see each of the, and the next page will give you the summary based on the course code. And then if you go to the next page, you'll get the next bill code, activity within that bill code, simple resources, and then the summary, etc. Similar report in a different format. Here, I can also filter or customize this report based on a particular bill code. So if I select this report, let's go to the next one. I've already customized it. So if I customize the report, I'll get the option to choose the quantities, etc. And here I can customize and filter for a particular codes. So you can choose either the primary code as either bill code or task code, and secondary as the second code. So in this case, I have the primary as the bill code, which is where the location, and then the secondary is the task code, which says what activity. And I can also see up to 4 of these codes. I can type in the code that I want. For example, if I want to generate the report for a particular activity, let's say excavation, I can type in the code for that, and then I can generate it based on that particular excavation activity only. So if I just preview it, so this is, I've not applied that filter. Just want to show you first. So this is 02 for the preliminaries general and 04 for the earthworks. So if I want to generate only for this earthworks, I can just escape, customize the report, go to the same option, the code selection. So I want to apply the filter based on the task code, so which is my secondary code. I type in the code for earthworks task 04. I just click OK, preview it, and then the same report you will only see for that particular task of earthworks. So you'll see for the wind shaft, bill code, earthworks, and the resources for the earthworks within that bill code, and then the summary based on the course code, and then the next page you will see the next bill code, which is substation, and the same activity 04 earthworks, and then the resources usage and the summary based on the course code for that particular bill code. And we can also further generate it based on a location. So you could be like asking Candy, hey Candy, please generate the report only for the substation bill code. And Candy will be like, yeah, why not? Just customize the report, put in the bill code, and then you have it. So if I do the same, customize the report, go to the section, and in the primary code, I can type in the code for that bill code. So in this case, my bill code for substation is 3000. I just click OK. I preview it and I'll save it. So then the report will only be generated for that particular substation and then each of the activity within that substation, and the summary based on course code will be seen. Okay. That's the power of the red core resource analysis that we're doing. I would also like to remind you that about a useful feature which is available to for the reports. So what I can do is I can select the report. I can save this report directly as a PDF document. So if I just save it as a PDF document, I can, instead of selecting the printer, etc., I will be directly able to open this document in a PDF file. And that is possible by having installed a printer or a PDF printer directly from Candy, or from which can be downloaded from our website, and then you will have the option of printing directly as a PDF. Not only just that, for the report header also, you will have the option to print the PDF book. So all the reports coming under this heading can be printed in one click. So you don't have to generate the report for each and every report and then save it as PDF. And you can just directly print it as a PDF book. I've already done that for saving time. So if you see here, the webinar reports, I can also see all of the report that I've generated here, and I can see all of the reports saved as one file with the covering page, which neatly describes the headings and the reports which is falling under that. So that's a useful tool which you can also look at. So that's the analysis of the report. Now, having seen the project codes in Candy applied in the estimation or the pre-tender stage, we can do similar analysis in the post-tender stage for budgeting and cost control purpose. In the post-tender stage, the significance shifts from bill quantity to the final quantity. Final quantity is the remeasured quantity of the bill items based on the issued for construction drawings or the shop drawings. Please be informed that the significance of final quantity varies based on the procurement route or the contract type of the project, that is, lump sum or remeasurable. Let's see that in Candy now. So, as a best practice, I've created a copy of the job and named it as the budget job, and have updated the final quantity. So let me open this budget file. So the final quantity can be updated from the estimating document or from the valuations module. So in the estimating documents, we can take the document number 2.2, which is bill with final quantities, and then update the final quantity against each of the bill items. So here, as you see, I have updated the final quantity few of the items for the first two. So the same 5,400 square meters of clear site. The final quantity is 6,000 square meters for that item. And now I can generate all the documents and the report that we saw earlier based on the final quantity as well. So once you have updated the final quantity, we can go to the same document of 3.1 resources per bill item with the project codes already added. And I can change the quantity type by right-clicking on the bill quantity column, going to column options, and I can choose it as the final quantity. Now the usage everything will also be shifted to the final quantity. So you can see it based on any of the level of analysis of the complex. So let me just keep it to the symbol resources here. And then you can see the usages of each of the symbol resources to the final quantity and against each of the bill item. The job analysis document will also have the final quantity related document. So the job analysis document can be taken from the job analysis menu. And then we have got the split amount summary document. By default, the split amount summary document shows only the task code, but you can customize them and add the other project code that we discussed. So I've already done that. So if I go to this split amount summary with bill, with task, bill, task, and cost, I just have customized it and added these three columns also. And then let me open it. So this will summarize all the POQ into the bill code, task code, and the cost code. And then you can see the quantity based on the bill and the final quantity, and the amount based on the bill and the final amounts. All the reports that we saw earlier can also be taken based on the final quantity, just customizing and changing the quantity to the final quantity. Now we'll see the integration of these information with the ERPs. First, we'll look at the BuildSmart ERP and then we'll see about the other ERPs. So we are going to see how this project code information gets transferred to the ERP tools, which are used by your procurement, accounting, and the project team. So let's look at which of this information gets transferred to the BuildSmart ERP first. For other ERP tools, the transfer of data will be through an Excel export and import function, whereas for BuildSmart, it's a direct integration, it's a seamless integration. So the budget information created using the project codes can be seamlessly transferred to BuildSmart from Candy. That can be done from the BuildSmart integration menu, which is under the estimating and the cost and allowable and the valuation module under the advanced menu. And then you've got the BuildSmart integration, transfer, budget, and resource usage. And we can also see the budget document in the same window. So BuildSmart takes the budget, that is the net amount, and the revenue, which is the selling amount information, with the bill item summarized to the task code and the cost code from Candy. BuildSmart does not cater for bill codes, but as I said earlier, we can include the where component within the task code, making unique activity codes for each location. The resource usage based on the final quantity, along with the cost code, and against each task code is also uploaded to BuildSmart. And this is used to establish the procurement control with a 3 level of code, which has to be satisfied as a check for the procurement process. That is the check on the rate, next is the quantity, and finally the amount. Meaning the site team will not be able to procure at a higher rate than budgeted, at higher quantity than budgeted, or even at a higher amount than budgeted. The task code information will give another layer of control with the check being applied to each task. So let's see an example here. So here we have got activity 02 for preliminaries with the diesel allowance of 7,061 liters. We have another activity of earthworks 04, which is the same diesel, and the allowance is 42,092 liters. So the resource information will be uploaded to BuildSmart with this much detail with the resource usage of diesel broken down to the task code level, which will restrict the total quantity of diesel that can be procured for each activity to its specific activity-based allowance coming from Candy. So that establishes your first level of control for your procurement process. Now let's see the integration with other ERP systems. For other ERPs, the transfer data will be through an Excel export and import function. We can customize the resources per bill item document to add the columns required for the ERP and then can be exported to multiple formats like Excel, CSV, XML, etc. For exporting any document to Excel, we now have a faster option under the tools menu, and which is the write to Excel file, which is faster than the normal export dump. The exported file can be uploaded to the ERP system of your company. So it will have the same data as an Excel file, and then which can be used for importing to a specific ERPs for those of you who are using not using BuildSmart. All right. Now, having seen the project codes in Candy applied in the estimating and the budgeting stage, let's see how we can do similar analysis in the execution stage for the cost control purpose. Here, I would also like to highlight the fact that for effective cost control in construction industry, it is crucial to minimize the complexity of the coding structure. While Candy software allows for an extensive number of build codes, task code, and cost code for budgeting, the key consideration should always be practicality. Can the project team realistically allocate the actual cost, such as the material purchases, the labor, the plant resources, to that particular detail level? If the coding structure is too complex for accurate cost booking, the cost control function will become inefficient. Therefore, the primary factor in determining the level of coding detail should be the feasibility of capturing actual cost effectively to that particular coding level. In the execution stage, the significance shifts from bill to final, then to the actual and the remaining quantities. So, as we discussed, final quantity is a remeasured quantity of the bill items based on the issued for construction drawings. The actual quantity is a progress quantity of work achieved till that period, and the remaining is the difference between the final and the actual, which is the remaining quantity to be completed. So, let's see in Candy now. As a best practice, I've created a copy of the job or the budgeting file and named it as the valuation number 1. The actual quantity can be updated against the bill items in the valuation bill document either as a quantity or as a percentage of progress. Once the actual quantity is updated, you can see the resource usage is based on the actual quantity, remaining quantity, and also based on the final quantity in the documents or the reports that you've seen earlier. Let's look at the similar document resources per bill item. When you go in the valuation module, the document number changes to 5.1, where we added the project code related columns. And we can change the resource usage quantity to be based on actual quantity by right clicking on the resource net usage column and selecting the to date actual quantity. And then the resource usages will be updated based on the actual or the to date quantity. The job analysis document will also display the final quantity and the actual or the to date quantity and amounts. All the reports that we saw earlier can be customized and generated based on actual, remaining, and final quantity. So this is the resource analysis by project code report generated with to date, remaining, and the final quantity columns. Now let's see the project code resource analysis report with the actual quantity usages. Just matter of customizing and choosing the quantity to actual quantity. So this is the resource analysis by project code with showing the to date actual quantity. The cost and allowable document can also display all of the 3 project codes and give a summarized value of your allowable or budget, cost, and the variance for each of the period. The to date allowable information is updated based on the actual quantity that you updated. The actual cost is coming from the BuildSmart ERP or from other ERPs, which it can be done through an Excel import. And the variance is the difference between the to date allowable and the cost that displays the profitability of the project for that period. The details of cost and allowable is covered in detail in a previous webinar, which can be viewed from the Candy Help Center. In the cost and allowable document, we can flip the order of the project code by going to the view and choosing the preferred sequence of project code. That is build task cost, or you can select task, build cost, cost, build task, etc. All these options are available under the view menu. The earned value graph can also be generated for the entire job, or you can plot it for each line, giving the ability to generate for each build code, which is the location, or each task code, which is the activity, or even cost code, which is the ledger. This can be taken by keeping the cursor on any specific line within the cost and allowable document. Click on the graph menu and the arrow next to the graph menu at the bottom of the cost and allowable document. And then you can choose plot the graph for the current line. And now I've kept my cursor on the ventilation shaft build code. And then it will generate the earned value graph for just for the ventilation shaft build code. In the same manner, I can generate it for an activity of within that ventilation shaft, which is earthworks. That's the graph that you see now. Total value is 351, which is the earned value or the allowable to date, and the actual cost booked for earthworks within the ventilation shaft bill code is 342,000, which is coming from the ERP. And the planned value, which will show the how much is planned. So that's the earned value concept, which is covered in detail in the another webinar, which can be taken from the Candy Help Center. And we can also further see it for a specific cost code, which is the external plan here in this example that I'm demonstrating. So the actual cost for the external plan here is 178,000 for this ventilation shaft active bill code and the earthworks or excavation activity specifically. So that brings us to the end of this webinar. Before concluding, I would also like to highlight the Candy Help Center facility that can be accessed directly from Candy. So you have got the menu on the top right hand corner now, just below the version number. The Candy Help Center is a portal which hosts the recording all the webinars done till date. And also it also has the tech notes, the starter guides, etc. And it is a freely available resource for all our users. If you would like to further learn any topics that we discussed today, like the earned value management or the codings, or any other topic that is of interest to you, please explore the Candy Help Center portal. And that is absolutely free. I would also like to remind you about the contact details of our offices worldwide, which can be viewed from the software itself. Under the support menu, if you go to offices worldwide, you can see the contact numbers of the offices worldwide. Please contact your nearest RIB office if you need any further details or any support in future. From the help center also, we have option to record support queries. And we have also given the contact mobile numbers of the consultants in each region under the emergency numbers for you to reach us faster 24/7 in case of any emergency. So just to conclude, I am sure you will agree with me that Candy is continuing to be the leader in estimating and project control software. Thank you for your time, and I trust that you will find these features useful in your daily use of Candy. Please remember to contact your local RIB office if you want to know more about these features. We'll keep you informed of the next webinar. And remember, if you cannot join on the selected time, then please still register and you will receive the recording, which you can then watch in your own time. Enjoy the rest of your day and see you at the next webinar. Thank you and goodbye.